Okay, I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys. I feel like tonight's game was kind of beauty is in the eye of the beholder type of situation. I'm going to be honest because I know from a lot of perspectives this was not a fun game, particularly for fantasy football. I'm in full awareness that it was not a fun fantasy game, and we're going to go through all that here, when we get into it. But I will say I am a sucker for good defensive games, and there was a lot of good defense in that matchup. Now, you could argue with me that was just a lot of bad offense, but I will give you the flip side of that. There was a lot of plays made by both sides of the ball in this game. So I do feel like I actually kind of enjoyed this game more than most people did in this planet, particularly who play fantasy football, because obviously tonight's game was full of duds in fantasy football. So we're going to go ahead and provide the full recap of the game tonight. Like the video, subscribe to the channel to show your support as well. And yeah, let's go with the Raiders side of the ball first. Again, this is just a nasty one to talk about here. I will say this. Geno Smith obviously did not have a good day in fantasy, and realistically, his fantasy success has been few and far between this year. I will say this though, kudos and props to him for sticking this one out. I was at my parents' house tonight watching this game, and I was watching with my dad, and we're both Steelers fans, and we've seen our fair share of Kenny Pickett. And so the first time that Geno went down, they showed Kenny Pickett warming up, and we were both laughing because it's nobody wants to watch Kenny Pickett right now. As bad as Geno is, it's going to look worse when Kenny Pickett is in that game. And so we were just joking about it because Geno Smith saved America from having to watch Kenny Pickett tonight because it would have been uglier. I mean, honestly, Geno, it's just not that good of a player, right? And I've been saying this, I've been kind of actually on this for years, and people used to really get on me and hound me when I used to call it out when he was with the Seahawks. And it's become very clear moving to the Raiders that Geno just is not that good of a player. He's turnover prone and he's not making plays happen. And obviously he's got a weapons shortage outside of Brock Bowers. But the reality is, man, it's just not going to work either way you cut this cake. So Geno Smith is totally matchup dependent on if you can play him in fantasy. And obviously when you're playing against the Broncos, that's one you got to stay away from. So I can't imagine there was anyone out there who, with a brain or without a bad, just an awful situation, played Geno Smith tonight. But yeah, ugly game from Geno. But again, kudos and props to him because he was definitely playing that fourth quarter injured, and he could have very easily just called it quits. But he said, no, we're still in this game. I would like to continue to go out there. And particularly the second time that he was going to go to the blue tent was when they got their second interception off Bo, and he was basically run limping to the field to get to the sidelines to get his helmet so he could go back out there. So props to Geno. He showed a lot of toughness and a lot of grit tonight. But from a fantasy perspective, it's completely dependent on, what matchup looks like. Running game, Ashton Jeanty really was the highlight of both sides from a fantasy perspective. I mean, Ashton Jeanty, I was talking to my dad again tonight, and I was saying, he was asking me, he doesn't watch as much football as I do. He loves football, but not as much as me. And he was asking me tonight, how's Ashton Jeanty been this year? And I was telling him, it reminds me a lot of Najee Harris's rookie year with the Steelers. Bad offensive line he's running behind, but he's getting everything, and he's making what he can out of it, except Ashton Jeanty is just a much better athlete than Najee Harris ever was. And Ashton Jeanty, I think that was full proof on display tonight. Now, the irony that was funny was that if you watch the game, and again, this was one of those Thursday nights, we've gotten kind of screwed the past month. We have not had good Thursday night games, so I don't blame anyone who didn't want to sit through this whole game. But this was at the beginning of the game. Ashton Jeanty's touchdown run, it was actually hilarious because it shouldn't have counted. That was a delay of game by a second and a half, and they just didn't call it. So the Raiders' only touchdown tonight was actually fraudulent. And that was kind of the funny part. But Jeanty, my point being is that he's doing what he can with what he's got. And honestly, it's for where you drafted him at, it's not going to come through, right? You may get one or two more explosion type games like you got from him. I think it was against the Bears, if I'm remembering correctly, in week 4 or 5. you're going to get maybe 1 to 2 more of those this year, but he will not return the draft capital that you spent on him. That's just the reality of the situation. So it's unfortunate to kind of see how that played out and just kind of knowing that it's not going to get better. Yeah, but at the same time, I do feel like he's a really viable option on a weekly basis still because of volume and because he can make plays. Like, he is their guy from top to bottom. He's involved in the passing game. He's obviously their made running back. Like, Genty's going to make, do with 12 to 14 points on a weekly basis, depending on if he gets in the end zone or not. I mean, I do think Ashton Genty still belongs as a strong and RB2 in fantasy football. Tyler Lockett. It's actually funny. I drafted a bunch of Tyler Lockett in best ball this year. Obviously, Lockett is nowhere near relevant enough and good enough to sniff a fantasy football lineup, like a redraft lineup. But I drafted a bunch of Tyler Lockett in the offseason on best ball on Underdog. And I was like, well, it's clearly not working with the Titans. And then when he got cut and he signed with the Raiders, I was like, oh, is this actually going to pull through for me? Because, Geno Smith, the connection's there, and it actually showed exactly what it was tonight. Trey Tucker, honestly, at this point, I feel so bad for telling people to play Trey Tucker because Trey Tucker, to me, is a guy that you cannot rely on. Like, after tonight, I'm pretty much out on it. Like, maybe don't drop Trey Tucker. I'm not saying to drop him necessarily, but what I am saying with Trey Tucker is he is not like a high-end flex. Like, I thought he was going to be different tonight. But Brock Bowers, even in his worst game, had more receiving yards than Trey Tucker, and Brock Bowers had 1 catch, and Mayer actually had 3 catches. It was just a weird night. This is the result of going with a bad defense, right? Like, you're going up against a really, really not bad defense, bad for you. Like, this defense, the Broncos, I said it throughout the week, there's 3 elite defenses this year in real football. The Texans, their defense is elite. The Seahawks, their defense is elite. And the Broncos. And even without Pat Surtain, an all-pro, possibly defensive player of the year candidate, they're still dominating. And they abused the Raiders' front 7 or their offensive line tonight. And we kind of saw Brock Bowers have to do a lot of what happened with Jake Ferguson a couple weeks ago, which is when they played the Broncos, Jake Ferguson goosed because he couldn't get off the line of scrimmage because he had to stay in block. Because that front 7 is running with their hair on fire. It's insane to watch. Like, it's actually crazy to watch. So I think Brock Bowers just is a problem because of consequence of the matchup tonight. And honestly, that's something I'm going to watch out for in the future. Like, it became clear to me tonight. Even the best tight ends, and Jake Ferguson, make no mistake about it, has been a top 10, top 5 tight end this year for the most of the year. So the best tight ends are going to have bad days against the Broncos because a lot of those guys are going to be brought in to pass protect. That's just going to be the case. So that's going to be a factor moving forward. Obviously, I touched on Lockett. That's not a relevant guy for a fantasy football team. Michael Mayer is like a deep, deep dart throw. If you're in a tight end premium league, it makes sense to do that. The one other name I wanted to briefly mention was Dante Thornton. And I'd been kind of saying over the weeks, look out for him. And Thornton had 1 catch, but he actually dropped Geno Smith's best pass of the night by far tonight. Geno dropped it right on stride, 40 yards down the field, right in Dante Thornton's hands, and he dropped it. So maybe he won't be relevant because that's a bad drop. And it could have changed their fortunes in the game and being as close as this game was. Could have changed things, but realistically, Dante Thornton just been a disaster of a season for him. I see the super chats. I appreciate them. I will go over it when I am done. Now let's get to the ugly part. Honestly, I think we just got to have a brutal conversation about Bo Nix. Bo Nix is a guy I like, and I'm rooting for him. I always liked him when he was originally with Auburn, and then when he went to Oregon, I was like, it's not surprising me that he's actually doing well because he actually is a good quarterback. Then he goes to the Broncos, and last year, things looked pretty good for the most part, particularly in the second, the last 3 quarters of the season. But we got to be honest with ourselves here. Bo Nix, outside of a couple quarters, has actually looked pretty atrocious. Like, as the game went on tonight, I was thinking to myself, I started Bo Nix in one of my own leagues, so I see, Adrian, you started Bo Nix tonight, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who did. I'm sharing with you guys. I was in with you because Bo Nix was in my lineup. I benched Jordan Love, who I would be shocked if he didn't do better in fantasy this week than Bo Nix did. I had him in the lineup watching this game unfold, and I'm thinking, there's got to be that fourth quarter surge that we've seen. I mean, in every game, basically, outside of the Cowboys game, where he pretty much ripped them up from the moment that kickoff happened, he's been awful in every first half and even deep into the third quarter. But once that fourth quarter hits, Bo turns it on. And so I was just waiting and waiting and waiting, and it's like that meme of the guy who just like sits there on the swing waiting for years and years and decades. And it never happens. And that's how I felt watching Bo tonight, because Bo has been really good in the fourth quarter. But if you actually boil it down just to his whole season, I give a lot of crap to JJ McCarthy. And I will continue to do that probably. But the reality is, like, I got to be fair. Bo Nix is doing the same thing. I mean, Bo Nix has had a much better path as far as Bo Nix has been on the field more than JJ McCarthy. So we've got a bigger sample size. And what I saw last year with Bo is kind of what I stick to when I think of Bo Nix. Because I think, same thing with Jaden Daniels, who wasn't very good this year when he played either. But Bo Nix, realistically, this season has been atrocious for the most part. And so if I give JJ McCarthy crap about having 2 good quarters this year, I gotta be fair with Bo Nix, because this is what I'm seeing with him. Honestly, man, like, I don't know what to say about, like, I'm not gonna drop Bo Nix in fantasy. And the league I have him in, I actually have him in 2. I have him in 1 redraft league and 1 dynasty league. I'm not dropping him in either. Obviously not the dynasty league, but like, I'm not gonna drop Bo because I still do see he is Jordan Love. Like, him and Jordan Love are the same player. They are excellent from a fantasy perspective in 1 week, and then the week you think their matchup is fantastic, that's when they crap the bed. I mean, it is awful what we saw from Bo tonight. Like, he was frenetic in the pocket. He looked out of sorts. He was inaccurate. Like, I will say this, like, Troy Franklin on that second interception, if you watch that, Troy Franklin's going to get a lot of crap from people who are trying to defend Bo Nix. I'm not even sure he was looking to throw to Bo Nix. Like, I think he was trying to throw to Pat Bryant. And then the ball popped out of Troy Franklin's hands. Like, Bo was bad tonight. Like, flat out bad, end of story. I don't know, man. I really don't know, because I really do think that there can be a world where Bo Nix wins people championships this year if he goes on a run, because we've seen it. But there can be a world where Bo Nix absolutely craters fantasy teams this year. This is a scary play. It's a very scary play. Week to week, man. Week to week. J.K. Dobbins had a pretty good night. His problem continues to be he's just not getting in the end zone. And at this point, like, I was pretty bullish on J.K. Dobbins heading into the week. And again, the approach I stand behind, because clearly he dominated again in the workload column. And R.J. Harvey was awful tonight from a fantasy perspective. By the way, on that note, people I told to play, I had a question before the game about R.J. Harvey and Troy Franklin. Well, I answered R.J. Harvey. I apologize to you, because that was awful. I mean, that Troy Franklin got back in the end zone tonight, and J.K. Dobbins was electric with the ball. Honestly, he was really good. Like, J.K. Dobbins looked really good tonight. He was their bright spot offensively, aside from Troy Franklin. But J.K. Dobbins, man, I will say this. The threat of R.J. Harvey is still not imminent. It's not there. Like, he is just not getting the ball enough. And if he's not getting in the end zone, you're going to be disappointed. Because tonight he had 2 catches for 9 yards. So I stand by the approach when it comes to J.K., but I just have to be brutally honest with myself. Especially when your quarterback is playing that bad, your red zone trips, and JK's not like a break off a big run type of guy. He's more just like he's going to get you a consistent 5 yards a carry type of guy. JK's fantasy upside is probably not more than like a low-end running back 2 right now. And that's kind of the reality. RJ Harvey, again, total bust. Kind of warned people it's a boomer bust play, but I did tell people to play him over certain guys, and that looks terrible right now. Pat Bryant, 1 catch for 43 yards. The guy is definitely getting more involved on a weekly basis, but not to the point where you need to take him seriously for fantasy. Here's really where the other big discussion comes into play. Troy Franklin versus Courtland Sutton. I whiffed hard on Courtland Sutton this week. I whiffed on him last week, but not as bad because he got in the end zone on his 1 catch. And then I whiffed on him the week before with Dallas. So now I find myself wondering, with Troy Franklin being more important than him, like it's not just that Troy Franklin has outperformed him in fantasy for 3 straight weeks. It's also that Troy Franklin is truly becoming Bo's number 1. It's actually happening. Like, Bo Nix is actively targeting Troy Franklin more consistently than Sutton. And the crazy thing is, like, last year, Courtland Sutton was his guy under duress. Like, if Bo had a problem and he needed to buy time and make a play, he was going to Sutton. That was just going to happen. That guy has become Franklin this year, particularly over the last several weeks. Now it's time for us to have a real conversation about who is the wide receiver 1. Is it Courtland Sutton? I'm not convinced anymore. I've had enough of it. I whipped and I told way too many of my audience to play Sutton tonight. I told way too many people to play him. And that makes me mad because I know people suffered from that. I hate that. So we have to have a frank discussion. Like, is Troy Franklin the number 1? And it kind of looks to me like he is. If you've watched the last 3 weeks in particular, Troy Franklin has been the guy a lot of times in the red zone and also just in times of stress and duress. He goes to Franklin on 3rd downs. Like, that's a fact. So I don't know. I mean, I need to sleep on this one. Obviously, I'm having an instant reaction tonight, so it's hard for me to provide like in-depth analysis, but all I can tell you is what I saw tonight, and Franklin was his number 1 receiver. As of the time of this filming, like, Troy Franklin to me is a wide receiver 2 in fantasy. He is. And Sutton to me is like a flex option. Like, Sutton to me is no longer wide receiver 2 in fantasy. He is a flexible guy. I don't know, man. It's really weird. Evan Ingram continues to be a massive disappointment. I will just touch on this, man. I cannot get out of here without talking about the Broncos defense. I mean, this defense is so effing good. I remember talking about this during the offseason when I was going through my initial defense rankings. And I highlighted 2 names in particular that they acquired this offseason from the 49ers. Dre Greenlaw, the all-pro linebacker for the 49ers, and Talanoa Ufunga, the safety from San Francisco. Talanoa Ufunga is just a straight-up baller. And it's a lot of people, again, this is why a lot of people come to my channel. Like, you come here to get really in-depth defense analysis that you flat out don't get anywhere else on YouTube for fantasy. Talanoa Ufunga I don't know if he still is. I know for a time period, though, he was actively being trained and coached by Troy Polamalu. And maybe some of you don't even know that name. That's sad if you don't, because Troy's a Hall of Fame defensive player. Like, for the Pittsburgh Steelers, he was the most transformational safety that I can remember. I mean, Ed Reed was probably better from like a ball hawking perspective, but Troy Polamalu was like your safety that was all over the field. That's what Ufunga is. Like, Ufunga is Troy Polamalu light. He's excellent. He has changed the fortunes of the defense. Like, you see the impact of him with Pat Surtain out, but their pass rush is dominant. Their linebacking crew, dominant. Their secondary, even without Surtain, pretty freaking dominant. Like, Denver's defense, I don't care what the matchup is, they're going to be in my top 12. Like, I cannot imagine putting them outside of it. Even when they play the Chiefs. I'm like, how do I rank this defense outside of the top 12 when their defense is a menace to every quarterback they play and they don't let you run the ball? I don't know how I can not rank them there. So, I mean, that's just one of those situations, man. I could not get out of here without talking about them. And props to the Raiders defense too. They held their own tonight and they did pretty well. And from a fantasy perspective, they're actually going to show up pretty good because they got 2 picks off of Bo and they also got 2 sacks off of Bo tonight as well. But that was the breakdown. Appreciate your patience. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's get to these super chats really quick. Adrian, what's going on, man? Bro, I had Bo and Sutton in my start. Yeah, that sucks. I don't know what else to say other than, like, I know, Adrian, I think if I'm remembering correctly, I told you to start Sutton. Massive L for me. And massive L for you, unfortunately. Like I said with Sutton, there's a real conversation that needs to be had moving forward about if he is their number 1 receiver. And as of the time of this live stream, and as of watching this game tonight, I am not convinced that's the case. I'm actually getting more and more convinced as I sit and think about it and replay the game in my head that he's not their wide receiver 1. It's Troy Franklin. And that's particularly because Bo Nix and Troy Franklin, this is why I discuss chemistry. Chemistry. When you've got built-in college chemistry like they had at Oregon, that matters, man. It matters a lot. They just paid Sutton to be their wide receiver 1 unquestioned. Well, guess what? Troy Franklin is the preferred child, so to speak, to Bo Nix. And when it comes to Bo Nix, again, I really do, man, Bo Nix, what a bad night. I mean, honestly, he is a terrifying start. His floor is low, and his ceiling is on the freaking quarterback 1 spectrum. I mean, he could be their quarterback 1 of the week, or he could be an absolute disaster. He is Jordan Love. Those 2 guys are simpatico this year. Massive ceiling, terrible floor. So, yeah, sorry about the night, man. It was a rough one. Alexis Bolanos, appreciate the super chat, man. Good to see you in here. What's up, Ryan? Singletary or DeMercado at the flex? I'm glad we get to move on from this game for a second. Because that was, yeah. Singletary or DeMercado. I do think that my philosophy when it comes to these 2 guys, so they're both in, like, I would call them split backfields this week. They are in split backfields. And I do think that, you know, when you actually look about the when you actually look at the Arizona breakdown this past week, like, DeMercado was clearly the more effective option on his work. So I was impressed with DeMercado this past week, and he out-touched Bam Knight as well. I didn't realize he out-touched him, actually, until I looked at that earlier yesterday. But I do think that DeMercado is in a bad spot this week because of the matchup versus Seattle. Like, that's hard to overcome. And, again, I think people, it may not feel like it right now, but, like, remember what we watched tonight with the Broncos. Like, the Broncos defense is one of the elites. Well, Seattle's up there too. And Seattle can make any offense look like a peewee football team. And I do worry about that with Emar DeMercado this week. With Singletary, I don't think that he has much juice like DeMercado does. But at the same time, man, I do think that this offense does have juice still with Dart. And the matchup is much better with the Bears. Like, that's a good matchup, actually, for running backs in fantasy. So if it's me, I am going to have to end up going with Devin Singletary. Appreciate the super chat, man. Alexis Bolanos, appreciate the follow-up. Are we starting Bronco defense next week versus Kansas City? Yeah, I think I said it earlier a couple minutes ago. I'm like, it just it depends on what your options are, but I can tell you this. I can say even right now, sitting here in week 10 after the Thursday night game, I can tell you with about 97% conviction that they're going to be somewhere in the top 12 next week. Like, that's how good they are. And it doesn't matter what matchup looks like when you've got this dominant. Honestly, this is one of the most dominant defenses I've seen in a long time. They are that good. And they have that many playmakers. And the bottom line with fantasy defenses is if you get sacks and you get turnovers, you're going to be a good fantasy defense. They're doing both right now. Like, it's unbelievable. And we just did see the Chiefs get kind of dominated by the Bills defense. The Chiefs are beatable. They're coming off a bye week, which is not a good thing. And they're usually good off the bye week. Andy Reid off a bye week is actually historic. But, man, I'm not saying that you need to start them next week. I don't think they're going to be the defense number one next week. But I will tell you this. 97% conviction rate over here in my head about them being a top 12 defense this year. Or top 12 defense this next week against the Chiefs. They're really good. Appreciate the super chat. Before we get out of here, I did want to go through something. So I've done a lot of team breakdowns this year through the site. If you used to be, you just go to the site, then you sign up for the subscription, then you'd email me your team and I provide a team breakdown. Well, what I'm doing now, because I know a lot of teams are preparing for playoffs and some people's trade windows are still open, we're doing more team breakdowns right now. So if you want a full team breakdown from me, what we did is essentially, to be honest with you guys, like if you got in on the price before, you were very lucky because the price now is different. It's $55 because it does have to be, worth my time as well, just to be transparent with everybody. These team breakdowns, they take a lot of time for me to do because if you ask anyone who's gotten one from me, they're in depth. They're very detailed. Like, I do not spare expenses when it comes to looking at a fantasy team. So, it does have to be worth my time as well. And this is what we're doing for the playoff push. So, if you do want a team breakdown from me, you can come to fsroundup.com/team-breakdown. And you can get a full team breakdown from me when you just send in an email of your roster in text or roster in pictures as well. And it's key. I mean, right now it's the time to do it, guys. It really is the time to do it and get a team breakdown right now because bottom line is this. When you are making the playoff push and your trade window's closing, you've got to make sure you're making the right moves. So if you're interested, hop over to fsroundup.com/team-breakdown. In fact, let me actually let me see if I can grab this link really quick for you guys. I'm going to try to grab the link really quick. But yeah, it's I've done a lot of team breakdowns this year. They're actually like I enjoy the hell out of them. They're a ton of fun to do and they take a lot of time for me to do them. So, definitely would kind of feels weird for me to recommend my own like team breakdowns, I guess, but like I will say that I think a lot of people have been very happy with the team breakdowns and they're always really in depth because I just believe in like giving you guys the full experience of a team breakdown. So I definitely do not spare time and details when it comes to the team breakdown. So the link I just posted is the team breakdowns link. So if you go to that site, go to that link, you can get a team breakdown and let's get ready for the playoffs. So appreciate you guys. Love you guys. Thanks for being in here tonight. Like the video, subscribe to the channel to show your support, and I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. Peace.